in some ways I think it is counterintuitive to what we see happening in the modern world, but it, really I think like, inside it feels very intuitive to work on, long-term sustainable food sources. Like I think about the time that, my mom spends each year planting annual flowers, that are going to be around for a couple of months and then are going to die. And then she's going to spend that same $100 and all those hours again next year, and then I come here and I start to see like, wow, people are really, planting these things with an eye to the future. Of course, I grew up on a farm in western Kansas, and the agricultural model that I grew up with is very much like a sort of conquer and tame and control the area, philosophy. And gardens had nice rows and bare soil in between them. And, you show up here and on first glance, it's just chaos, and to my eye, it just looked insane. And so it just looks disorderly. But I very quickly realized, taking garden tours with the folks that have been here, that there's actually really an eye on every plant here, and there's a lot of care put into everything, and that it's this systems approach, that everything is working together and everything has its place, and everything is very well thought out and none of it's frivolous, and so for me it's been a total restructuring of how I think about gardening in terms of longevity, and then also the method of gardening here. And again, going back to the way I grew up, like you sort of take from the soil, and then maybe you're putting something commercial back into it, something that's been manufactured, some kind of fertilizer. And here there's a real emphasis on not taking, on leaving as much as you can, on being, meticulous and mindful as you work through a garden, of seeing like what can be saved and salvaged, and then, what can we use from the farm to put back on the soil. So like the wood chips or the compost, the importance of the animals and making this whole thing work. It's really beautiful, I think, it's just in a mere, couple of months, it's changed my whole view. I've learned a lot.
So if you, when you leave here, if you were lucky enough to have a couple of acres to start your own small food garden, what would be the first thing that you would do?
I think first I would. Boy, there's a lot of things that would have to be done first at the same time. But, oh gosh.
You'd have...
After getting a feel for the zone and, what plants worked well there, and getting a feel for, what resources I had available, and, things like looking at the elevation differences are important here. Just like a slight elevation decrease, and we've got a drip-fed water system going on. So, sort of looking at that sort of thing to determine, what the appropriate zones for planting would be. I think I would start out by getting some, fruit and nut trees and some long-term investments into the ground. And then start building the soil and